So welcome everyone to our open evening about the circle facilitation training. And if you're here, you probably know what I'm talking about when I talk about the circle facilitation training. You've probably got some interest in it. And so I won't go into huge amounts of detail on what it is as we start, because what I'd love to do is introduce you to a set of people who've been through it firsthand to talk about their experiences. It's one thing to hear from me about it, and it's another thing to hear from people who've had their own individual paths. And so for a bit of context, as a brief summary to what it is, I've been running this training for the last 6 years, and I've had various iterations of it, but in the last 18 months in particular, it's been the CPD accredited course, so it's become accredited. And we travel over 4 months together to do two things. One is we learn about holding really strong, really robust circles. And the other thing, which I'm sure you'll hear people talk about tonight, is it's inevitable that we go on a personal journey of transformation because we are held in circle the entire time ourselves. We have a cohort starting next week. And so if you're interested in that, at the end of the session, I can share details about how it works. But for now, I just want to invite my first person to share with me. So I'm just going to make sure we can see everyone. I'm going to invite Sandeep. Let's see. So I think you can all see us both. Hi, Sandeep. Lovely to see you. So I wondered if you, just by way of introduction, you could give us a bit of context about your professional life and what you were doing as you entered the training.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be invited and see you all. I was just in your space and place earlier this year in February. And my background and what got me here. So I'm I always say a recovering management consultant. I'm full-time now, gone back to my roots of being a practitioner as a therapist and as a coach. And really, I bring that together and work mostly with corporates and leaders and execs in that capacity, one-to-one as well as group. And I'll talk about in a moment where that's branching out, and where this program really met me was, so I was then 4 years into leaving corporate life, just set up my own business. I hadn't really invested so much in different parts of myself and my skill over the past couple of years. And then a lot of learnings happening in somatic training and internal family systems. So the coach in me, the therapist in me is getting something. And something was just murmuring during my personal travels, actually. And it was quite literally an epiphany in the Amazon jungle where I was grounding myself, pretty much hugging a tree. And I knew I wanted to just take my offer, whatever that was, to some more depth and a place of healing. I just knew that word, depth and healing, just kept calling me. And, these things just happen in a really strange way. I then was scrolling on Facebook, as I do, and I saw this program and the word sister stories and circles. And I think it was your branding, Gemma, that just drew me in at that point. Um, and then I joined your evening sessions, the three of them. And then I knew this was something I wanted to call in because I was trying to figure out, what is this other space, this non-corporate, no advice, this advice-free space? What is it? And since then, I've been just crafting it more and more. So that's how I kind of found you. And then there's been things emerging since.
It's so wonderful to hear you share just about, you had a lot of grounding already professionally in holding space, and you've obviously trained in different things, both professionally and personally, but there was something about this that drew you in. And one of the things that I noticed, and perhaps this was your experience, is that sometimes it's almost like it's not logical, the pull to circle. What was your experience of that sort of, that magnetic pull?
great prompt. And you're right, it wasn't. Gosh, that is so true, because there was something about the community, and community is really big. That word kept going as well and features now in my emerging circle offer. But just seeing the diversity of women who were responding, I thought I need to, and this is a big question I've been asking myself generally as a practitioner and even personally, what diversity of thought am I connecting to, inviting in? And just in the chat, and though that first taster sessions, there's such a beautiful spectrum of women I saw. Yes, there may be people in our cohort that were psychologists or therapists, and just a couple of us. But the other array of depth and interest and that diversity was something I didn't know until I was there, that that's what I wanted and wanted to invite in. So that community is probably the top of my list that I first was really drawn to. Yeah.
And the diversity of the community is always so strong. I often am just amazed by the people that we get to sit in this space. So thank you for naming that, because I sometimes forget, because I've got used to it. You know, this is my work, and I've got used to hearing from someone who's 75 and simultaneously someone who's 22 and everything in between, and from, you know, all different walks of life.
And there's something about that diversity, and I'll just call out to everyone. I don't know if anyone kind of there are women that were in my cohort that found the language around circles that I could tell this is familiar to them. Management consultant, you know, I'm a coach, and, you know, so support solutions is very much my mind, my makeup, my orientation. And yet there was something else that these women were talking about so fluidly and naturally. You know, I've heard all these words, but all together, and they seem to know what it was. And it was just very alluring, and I got very drawn into the diversity of perspective from women who have ran their own version of circles, different spaces, you know, with nature, to the feminine, to the something else, to the something else. And I just thought, yes, I don't know any of this, but I just like the just being with it.
And one of the things that we've talked about before, both you and I, and also that I think about a lot and talk about a lot, is trying to create spaces that feel, I'm going to use the word safe, even though we know that safe isn't a word that is helpful, but we all know what it means by when we say safe. What was it about this and about your experience that felt like, okay, I can step in here? Like, did it feel like a space that you were held in? What helped you trust the space?
Oh, yeah. Several things, actually. It's a great question. Several things. I think what you do, Gemma, as a facilitator, you let people know what to expect in the space and the holding. I think that was, even in the 3 evening sessions you ran, gave me such a clear idea about what to expect. And for someone, I realize what I'm like when I join new places, new groups, and I'm usually more reserved, actually, and get quite quiet. And there's something about the transparency you created about what to expect, and that journeying throughout the time of the circle. So that was one that gave me safety. As we progressed, there was something about, I don't know if this answers your question directly, but there was something that I saw in the program that mattered to me. And it wasn't until I experienced it in the Circle program that I have been talking about it since a lot. And so, folks, I don't know if you've seen what Gemma's program covers, but there's a module on being a more inclusive space facilitator. I forget the exact word that Gemma refers to. And there's a speaker who has so much depth in this area that we had the privilege of having 2 different sessions with, one for those people who identify as a person of color or something in our heritage where we want to join that group, and the global majority and different groups. Being part of those sessions to me, and right from the get-go, Gemma has talked about the importance of us creating safe, inclusive spaces. Number one, the resources, the quality of resources that Gemma's provided on the program itself, to me, has set a benchmark, a gold standard around having a language around inclusivity right from the get-go. And as a practitioner, and having worked in NHS, then corporate, and now my own practice, and I'm with different communities of practitioners, this is something right from the beginning of my career I've been really, really clear that is important, where we all need to do our work when it comes to attracting diversity in our own spaces and groups. Yet I haven't seen many people who do it as an infusion, as the core of what they do, not just an adjunct, not just a mention, but right through the core. And I have been evangelizing this in a lot of other big corporate spaces, actually, mostly, that how do you design programs with inclusivity as a golden thread? So from our language, from our own work, that, and even I have to continually do this work. And, so anyway, I'm dribbling on now, so sorry, excuse me, but that to me made the space feel very safe to me, very inviting. And something I've been doing in my own therapy since is, as my therapist says, it's not just my job alone to carry this this flame around inclusivity and, wanting other practitioners to be inclusive. So as a white facilitator, as someone who's running Sister Stories, Gemma, it's really important that I saw you talk about this and now offer it as a golden thread through the program.
Thank you for sharing that, Sandy. One final question for you, if I may, which is, we've talked a lot about the sort of professional aspects of Circle. That's hugely important. And for some people, they come into it only for that. And then by surprise, find there's a personal journey to be taken. And for some people, they come into it for the personal journey, and the surprise is, wow, I've developed a new professional practice. What was your personal experience of sitting in Circle in that way and opening up in that way? What's it done for you personally?
Yeah, a couple of things. So during the program itself, you'll experience Circle every time you meet, which is brilliant reinforcement. So for me, being in community and feeling the energy and the connection of everyone receiving it, offering it, and this ebb and flow for me was really massive, and came at a point where, sometimes you don't know what you need until you receive it. And that's how it felt when I was sitting with my cohort, with you, Gemma, during that program. Since then, and during then, I'll be honest, and Gemma knows this, I think kind of towards the back end of the program, up until the end of November this year, I've been through my most busiest phase and felt really compromised, about what am I doing? I've just experienced something, and again, taken this to my other supervisors and talking about, I want to create this offering and these spaces. And this question, and Gemma's never said it to me, but other people have just invited me to think about what's my practice ground personally right now, and what my practice ground is, to give myself permission to be still, to be in community with, whether that's with other women or wherever it is, but is to be in Circle where I'm not doing, I'm not problem solving, and I'm learning to be. This is my practice ground for myself right now. And yeah, so recently I've just taken the thinking out of it, and I work better if I just schedule it in. It's in. So I've done the do and the mind bit. And that's for me something I need to invite in, because I have created an offering. And if I'm to be honest with all of you right now, I need to practice it and receive it as much as I offer it personally.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sandeep.
Thanks for asking.
Pleasure talking to you. Thank you. The wonderful thing about where I sit in this process is I just get to sit with all these people who bring so many different things. And my enduring memory of Sandeep is just the way that I was holding the space for the group and she was holding silently space too. It's just extraordinary. So thank you for being part of it. Okay. Let's talk to Claire Calver. I'm going to add you up, Claire. There you are. So lovely to see you. And I'm just going to let some people in. Where to begin? I think I'll begin with the same question that I asked Sandeep, because it's so helpful to understand the sort of personal, professional context that we enter this space. So tell us a bit about what you were doing before you entered the training.
Really going to hope that I can speak eloquently and allow my heart just to sort of really express this experience that I just, I'm having. So I come from a background of being a holistic practitioner, working from my home for 23 years, a long time. So I started my practice when I had Ben, my first child, and my business has grown alongside my family. And so it's interesting when I look back now how that's been reflected. So obviously being new to the area, just having a baby, I just did a deep dive into the community, contacting midwives, birth centres, and just building up my reputation and carrying out mainly at that time reflexology for pregnant and postnatal women. And 23 years on, I've got longevity of loyal client base, and I've reached that sort of fullest potential of what I can become. And I think for the last year, 18 months, there's been a very deep calling for change and inviting something new in, taking me away from the hands-on body work, because physically I'm becoming tired, and stepping into that sort of place for me to personally grow and invite something more expansive. And the space that I hold with people is not just tapping into the body wisdom, but it's really holding a space for whatever wishes to be alive in that place. And so that really invites for me where I'd like to go more further. So really doing that deep dive in exploration and opening up what needs to be, given voice to.
Beautiful. And my enduring memory of you when we first started the process of working together was just you were right in there. You just dived in with enthusiasm and energy and brought your whole self to it. And I'm wondering what it is about, what was it that made you think, right, I'm going to step into this experience and I'm going to show up fully? What was the thing that helped you step in?
I was so hungry to be seen. I think that I had purposely kept myself small, and there was a big me inside wanting to come out, and the small part of me kept me safe, but actually it was doing a disservice to myself and the world. And so when you came across my social media, I don't normally give much notice to it, but I just connected with you and your energy and your authenticity and your passion, and you just spoke to me. And when you have those moments of when people say it was just a yes, it really was a yes. And so I just stepped into that fully with my heart, and it was speaking to me of something that I had been yearning all of my life, actually. And so I am trusting in the unfolding that my work will show itself in circle. But for me personally, this has been a personal transformation and a very important part of my healing in arriving into my life and taking off all of the masks and taking off all of the roles that I've played for everybody else. And I give so generously. I think this is really sort of showing me how to really receive, which is equally important. And so this training, I don't even call it training, it's just there's no ending to it. It's been medicine for me.
So many beautiful things you said there. The first thing that you said just struck something in me was around the hunger that you felt. And you talked about the hunger of being seen. And my hunger when I came to circle work was to be holding women. But I actually didn't, I had a fear of being seen. So I didn't want to be seen. And I wanted to sort of fold myself into the whole. And I think for many of us who get drawn to this work, there is some sort of hunger that this can meet. And a bit like Sandeep said earlier, sometimes you don't even know what it is that you needed until you're in it. And so I think that the way you articulated that was so beautiful. And the second thing you said, just around the way that this has been your medicine. My experience and the experience of so many is that we come into this because we want to hold space and hold groups of women and offer circle, and that's beautiful. But there's such a deep reciprocity at the core of the work that it can't help but nourish us as well. And so you said it's your medicine, and I've seen you have such a deep journey in our time together. You talked about a transformation. I'm wondering, I mean, you only just finished, and I'm wondering in those sort of 5 months since we began, what shifted for you?
I think my lifelong journey has been with fear, and that's presented itself in so many ways. And this opportunity, this experience, this connection with just such a beautiful energy, but women, beautiful, beautiful women, has enabled this deeper, more intimate relationship with fear. And, you know, I really encouraging her to be here in a driving force for that change, to really give me that courage to break through that resistance, to really be with what it is that keeps me here, and yet I want to be there. So, you know, seeing fear in such a way of intimacy has shifted, and also curiosity. You know, she's here as well, and she's a great she's a great friend, and that just for me has brought this cracking open of my aliveness and my creativity, which is my life force energy. And I'm just falling in love with this feminine energy. You know, I've come from a place of survival, and I'm a good survivor, but I now want to thrive. And actually, where I'm at is leaning into rest. Actually, you talked so beautifully about seasons of our life and being, meeting that and knowing that in that season work is to be done, and seeing that rest is an active energy and very much needed. And where I'm at with my work right now, I haven't worked for the best part of a month. And that can bring fear in financially and not bringing in the energy of money. It can bring in lots of aspects of that shaking of the foundation. But actually, I'm curious about what it's bringing, and it's inviting me to ask the question, well, what if I don't go back to that work anymore? What would it invite in the new? And that excites me. And that's what you have given me, and the support of the women, and this beautiful, rich resource that I feel very much aligned to and part of moving forward in my life.
Does anyone else feel really inspired? I feel so inspired hearing you. And it's just so rousing what you're saying about this reclamation of self, but without what you described there was really befriending the parts of you which are more challenging, the fear, and also embracing curiosity. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned in this journey with Circle is that I don't need to squash those things. I don't need to move beyond fear. I learn to coexist with it. And it sounds like that's been a big part of your journey, as well as all the vibrancy and the aliveness. It's just, I feel like I want to go out and hold 100 circles tomorrow off the back of that. Let me ask you one more question, Claire. I'll never forget, we were right at the end of our training. You were like, I've done it. I've held my first circle. Tell me what it was like to have been through this process and to hold that first group.
Yeah, it was so extraordinary. It was a small circle, and it was a circle that I had only invited to people that I knew, because it allowed me to be safe, you know, that first stepping into to the unknown. And it was a really interesting process leading up to the actual circle day, because there was this doing part, you know, right, I've got to think about the meditation, think about, you know, da, 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 da. And I was really sort of trying to just step down from that and just allow this trusting in the unfolding. And again, there was this sort of observing of myself in this curious way, but really feeling the trust, actually, that the weaving of the energy of the circle will hold me and all of us. And that I've experienced before in holding workshops, but also receiving that in circles. So really bringing all of that sort of feeling in. I really enjoyed the gathering of the centerpiece, just allow I remember in the morning, you know, putting some music on, just taking my time to clear the space, to prepare the space, to think about the people that were coming, inviting the energy of each of those people in, to trust that the meditation was just going to come from my heart, that I didn't need a script, I didn't need to practice, I didn't need to memorize, just allowing for me to connect with that energy and to then channel that through the meditation. And yeah, it was just beautiful. And what was so good was there was this sort of divine timing. You somehow didn't even need a clock. Yeah, you need a clock there to sort of keep check, but it all just happened in this perfectly natural rhythm. And the poems that I selected just seemed so appropriate, and it landed for each of them. There were unexpected emotions for some of them. One person came with a very clear mind of just being an active listener, and yet she really contributed. So she brought that into the space, that actually this fixed state that she was coming in, actually it was inviting her to share. And it was this beautiful foundation of trust and bravery. As you say, we can't ever, you know, say that it will be safe, but it will be held in a way that it will invite you to be brave. And yeah, and at the end I was mindful that because I'm friends with them, they may want to just hang on and just, you know, and it was trying to be boundaried in that time. And that all just, yeah, it happened. And I felt so elated afterwards. And yeah, I'm going to do another one on the 26th of October. So I'm doing a monthly one for that, hoping to expand and grow. And I'm not putting too much pressure on the whole marketing or how much do I charge at the moment. I'm enjoying the experience of what it's bringing. And yeah, yeah. So it was good. But I'm yet to do an online, so that would be a challenge for me online. Maybe not.
I'm sure you'll do. Okay. Thank you so much, Claire, for that
Thank you,
rousing
Gemma.
speech. Incredible.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
So wonderful. Okay, I am going to invite, wait a second, let me just sort out my screen. Becky, I'm going to invite Becky. Hi, Becky, lovely to see you.
Hi Gemma, hi everyone.
Nice to see you. So Becky, I've asked everyone this, and I think it's useful context. Tell us about your sort of like what you were doing work-wise as you entered this training.
Yeah, so I'd been in pharmacy for 13 years as a dispenser, and I was also stepping into self-employment because I was also I'm also a holistic therapist for women. I trained like 15 years ago, and then because of how my role progressed in retail and into pharmacy, I just never did anything with it. So yeah, I was just feeling, I don't know what I was feeling really, like career wise. I was in like a really lovely, like close knit team, like we got on so well. But things had just really changed with the company, and I just wasn't happy in a lot of areas of my life really. So yeah, at that point I'd got a secure role, which it's all changed now really. But yeah, my passion just was helping other people. At the time, yeah. Then I saw Circle and was just really intrigued by it.
Beautiful. It's so helpful to hear that not all of us need to be doing holistic work full time to step into this work. And, you know, we have some people who come from that background and we have other people who have a range of different jobs. And I think one of the things that I enjoyed most about the beginning of my journey with Circle was that I was doing it alongside documentary work. And so I had a really stressful job, and like Circle was my sanctuary. So thank you for sharing that. And I want with you to dive straight in, because we were talking the other day, or you maybe shared this on Instagram. It's about a year since you finished this process, and I feel like every week, it feels like every 2 days, I see Becky popping up, having held this incredible circle. She's out there, she's doing it, she's got a community, and it's beautiful to watch you work. So in that year since you I was going to say graduated, it sounds quite formal. Since you started this process, what's it been like being out there holding regular circles?
I just remember how I felt on my first one, so sick, and just felt like it was really scary. But it was so amazing. But now being able to, I just kind of ran with it and just tried not to overthink it, because I would just put it off. And it's just so amazing to be able to hold these spaces for women. Like, and unless you've experienced it yourself, it's really hard to explain it to people. But it's just magical. Like, I've had some really profound experiences, and the trust that the women bring into the space, because a lot of the women that come to my circle have never sat in circle. I've, friends have come, and now they come like every single time. I've got newbies every single time, and it does feel like a community, and it really is, it is amazing. It's really changed my life and a lot of other women. Yeah, it's just kind of, it's amazing, but it's just trying to get the word out about this space. Like, I'm so passionate about it, but it's just a bit like, sometimes it doesn't happen quick enough. Like, I still get a lot of people, what is that? What are you doing? So yeah, but I'm just so grateful to be able to offer it to women.
I mean, it's so wonderful, Becky, because one of the things that I feel about this work is like, it's really easy to get people to sit in circle who are kind of know all about it and love it. But we don't want to preach to the choir. We want with circle work to be really genuinely spreading it. And the fact that you've gone out there and you've introduced people to this magic, I mean, firstly, well done, because it takes a lot for people to cross that threshold in the first time, and you need to inspire a lot of trust in them. But secondly, to sort of be able to give people that gift, it's quite extraordinary. So huge well done for doing that. And I'm wondering, because I know that in my own journey, and this continues now, you know, having held hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of spaces, it can feel a bit like that. And we can have moments of doubt, and we can have moments of challenge. And I'm wondering, what about the process of having the support and training has helped you navigate those ups and downs?
I've had to really muster a lot of self-belief and trust in myself and acceptance, because I remember we were back and forth for months, weren't we, before I signed up on the day before the training. I was like, oh God. But I just had this real urge and this real pull to do it. And when I read all the information, like, you just inspired me so much. I was so drawn to it. And I just thought, even if I don't do anything with this, I've got to do this for me. Like, this just sounds amazing, and just what I've been looking for. And it just feels like home. And all the modules, all of the training and the course is just so informative. It's so beautiful. It's hard to describe it. Every single thing I read, I was like, oh, it just really, really resonated with me. I was just like, oh, this is just such a gift to be able to do this. I'll be honest, it kind of feels a bit like learning to drive. You don't really know how to do it until you do it. I've had experiences in circle that have made me a bit, oh my gosh, like, how do I respond to this? But it's flowed, and I've never really felt like I haven't been able to handle it. And then if something's felt a bit, you can always kind of reach out to yourself. Or like, I've met some amazing women through the training as well, like other trainees that have done the course before, like, we've kind of connected online and stuff. So yeah, I've just kind of tried to trust myself as well, and just think, well, I'm doing this, I've got to take ownership of it, and just kind of trust myself, which has been a huge thing, massive.
And you've done it so beautifully, because I know that you did have those moments of doubt at the beginning, and we definitely did have a back and forth. But what you've done is you've taken it, you've run with it, and you've showed up consistently for the past year. And there's so much that's going to come, I can tell. And what you've just described then is sometimes one of the things people want me to tell them when they're learning Circle is, what do I do in every single scenario that can possibly happen? It's impossible to learn that. But what we can do is we can build our own internal capacity and our own sense of being able to truly trust ourselves to respond in the moment. And that's so much of the process. I've got so much more I want to ask you, but I want to also make sure that I've got time for everyone else. But Jazz Deep has asked in the chat about people's Instagram. Becky's Instagram is so beautiful. She's I'm going to let you put it in the chat, but it's Embers Women's Circle. That's right, isn't it? Embers
Want me
Women.
to put it in?
Put it in
Oh
the
gosh, I feel still so rubbish with this, you know. I'm just like,
Pop it in the chat, and anyone else, and Sandeep and Claire, if you want to share yours as well. But if you want a bit of inspiration about circles. And Becky, do you want to tell people where you are geographically in case there's anyone close by?
yeah, so I'm Leicestershire, East Midlands, kind of, yeah, we're surrounding like Derbyshire, Staffordshire. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Becky.
Thank you, Gemma. I'm just going to put this in. And then I'm just going to have to shoot off, Gemma, because I've got my little one to put to bed. But it's been so lovely wishing everyone luck and love with it all.
Thank you. So gorgeous. Embers Women's Circle. That's Becky on Instagram.
Thank you.
One of the brilliant things about where I sit is I get to watch people long term and watch their journeys long term and keep that thread long term. And it's just really great to watch people flourish. And Becky really has. So thank you for sharing your journey with us, Becky. Okay. Next, I'm going to come to, where are you, Cherry? Hi, Cherry. Nice to see you. Cherry's got this gift when you're sitting with her of really showing you that she's listening. And every time I'm in my group with Cherry, I'm like, she's got my back, she's listening, she's nodding, she's here. It's so nice to see your beautiful face. Why don't you tell everyone where you are in the world and then a bit about your background coming into this process?
Oh, thank you for inviting me to the space, Gemma. And I just want to acknowledge how heart moving, how the heart turns as we're listening and tuning in, and just like that's the magic, right? So just want to acknowledge that. I am based in the West Midlands, not far from Birmingham, but you can hear that I'm a Scouser in my accent, I hope, a little bit. Yeah. My background professionally is counseling, coaching, therapy, homelessness, addiction, recovery, 20 years in that sector. And that was how I first came across circles as a practice through addiction, actually, and looking at some of the trauma-informed work that's happened in the States. And I got interested and curious about restorative justice, restorative practices. And circle is part of that. And I was like, somewhere. And then it just took a time. And then I came across sister stories on Facebook, like everyone has said a couple of times. And I just went to the website, and what I read just resonated. I was like, wow, somebody's speaking this language, And it didn't seem, let me say it this way, it seemed genuine, like whoever wrote it really meant what they said. And that just began the connection and the sign up and the process of getting connected and joining with sister stories. And it took, I think, from actually signing up because of where I was studying and life, it took about 6 months for me to get to the course. But let me tell you the magic of that. Didn't tell you this, did I, Gemma? That was that my course that year finished on the day that Sister Story Circle facilitation training began. And it was just like perfectly divine timing. I was just like, look at the space that the universe created. So, yeah. Have I answered your question, Gemma?
Perfectly, perfectly. And once again, that context you're coming from, where you've got some awareness of the practice, and particularly in the sort of from in different kind of spaces. You mentioned addiction, you mentioned restorative justice and the trauma-informed work that's happening in the States, bringing all that in to the space, and yeah, starting your own path with it. And I wonder if you can tell us from your perspective, to be held in that training, both professionally and personally, what was it like?
Oh, I loved being in the circles, but in the first session, the very first time we got together, what I noticed is that as people were talking, I had this kind of flip in my body. And what I recognized is that as a counseling practitioner, you are responding in some ways on the inside to what people are saying, or you've got something to offer in response to what you're hearing. And actually, that was like not necessary in the circle. You don't need to do that here. You don't need to be that here. You can just kind of, okay, I can just notice the movement on the inside. And so that was the first like revelation that I kept talking about with people. Like, do you know you have this thing that flips over inside of you if you don't have to do what you always do? It's like, and then that stops happening. And you get back to just being and witnessing. Witnessing, witnessing is a superpower. And I have learned and enjoyed being in that witnessing space and hearing and seeing the unfolding. It's magical, and I know it's like it's what I call ordinary magic. It's ordinary magic. Anybody and everybody can do it, and we know what it is when we feel it, when somebody does that for us. So yeah, magnificent, really. I really have to tell you about something. So it's been mentioned by Sandeep already, because for me this was the one of the most powerful experiences on the program, which was the sacred inclusion section, and Eva Glamaris. Okay, so we did the workshop with Ava. Like amazing. So the first thing that said to me was that what Gemma said in the copy and the talking about inclusion in the work, actually she meant it, and it was right there, and it was happening. And one of the things about Ava's work is very much about tuning in and checking in and connecting deeper in a much deeper way with your ancestors. So I had this thing about wanting to do my DNA testing as an adopted person, and wanting to get that heritage, that actual heritage, because there's a term that's used in the world that's called mixed race, and I don't like the term, and I've never liked the term, and I think it's just code for something unhelpful. Anyway, long story short, um, I've been saying I'm Afro-Celtic for the longest time, right? But like I really am Afro-Celtic. It's like my people are from the Yoruba, they're from the San, they're from Bantu, it's like, and then my other people are from Wales and Ireland. And I'm like, hey, that is a thing. Listen, to when I had that information, I emailed Ava to tell her, look, because of that session that I did with you, I went and got this information. It's profound. Something settled in my chest when I walked down the road the next day. It was Ava Jasdeep Glamaris. She is in the she leads the Sacred Inclusion session, and then we had an additional session with Ava as well, which was like just generous and kind, and to be given that time in this space at this time. It was super, super important. So, like, that's a gorgeous unfolding journey for me. And yeah, it's been the work. It's just been the work. It's been beautiful.
So beautiful to hear you share that, Cherry. And you said the word "something settled in my chest" as I walked down the street the next day.
It is.
And it's like I don't think I knew the depth that had landed with for you. So thank you for sharing it. And for you, it was that. And for other people, it can be the relationship to grief, or there's just so many doors that each of us have inside of us where we can be, you know, you're a counsellor, you're in this work, you know, you're no stranger to your own emotional landscape, and each of us, we open them in this process and we don't know what it will be, and how beautiful that was your path that you took. And yeah, I mean, it's been mentioned by Sandeep and Cherry, Ava Glamaris's sacred inclusion work is just so fantastic, and she does inclusion work differently because the philosophy that she takes and that we all share in is that this isn't something that you do once, it's a lifelong practice and it's a lifelong inquiry. And yeah, huge respect to her for coming into this program and offering this work that she does, because it's so important. I've got so much more to ask you, but I want to what's the best next question? If someone's not sure about this, if someone's like, should I, shouldn't I, like, what would you say to someone who feels some sort of pull but isn't sure? Can they trust it? What would you share about your experience as a whole?
My experience as a whole would be that it's worth listening to the call, because this space is sound. It has a solidity that comes through the connection. And you know that trust is an evolving thing, but the container that's provided affords the ability to really create safety for ourselves and within ourselves and with each other. So one of the beautiful things comes through the pod, small group connections, the wider connection in the circles, and just how it evolves in your life, and the ability to go back to the group and say, hey, this, hey, that, you know, to get this interactive. It's not one of those courses that's remote. I think that's the important thing. It's not remote, it's involved, and there is something really solid. And I think integrity is the word. If you really, integrity and authenticity, I think, you know, we often see a lot of stuff online that looks all singing and all dancing, but it's not. But this course is like, it over delivers, if that's a concept you can grab a hold of. Like, you kind of know what you want and what you hope for, but it's way more than that. So that's what I would say. Trust your gut, you know. Trust your gut. Do the head, heart, gut on it, and yeah, there's a calling, go for it.
Thank you so much, Cherry. Those words mean so much to me, because you know, because you've been in it, how much gets poured into this, and the hearing that it really lands means a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being always my silent encouragement, smiling away with every group that we held. I always appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Gorgeous. Okay, last but not least, we're going to invite up Nina. So, Nina, hi. Now, Becky touched on this a little bit with her share, but Nina and I were talking for 2 years before you actually joined. Was it nearly 2 years? 18 months?
Something like this. Yeah, a while, an extended period of time.
And sometimes people have that experience where, yeah, it's just like it's in the field and then you step in. What was it that made you step in to this space? And what moment in life were you at when you did? So what were you doing work-wise? What was your life set up?
So I first got in touch with Gemma, as she said, a while back, and I had been wanting so badly to do this work, and I had felt so extremely drawn to this deep desire that I had felt that I wanted to do work with women, and I wanted to create spaces for women. but it wasn't for a couple of years until I actually finally did training. And part of it was financial reasons. And part of it, I think, came from this part in me that felt a bit scared and a bit like I needed to wait until I was at like the perfect time in my life to do this work. And so I waited and I waited and I waited. And I finally felt like if I don't just do it, I'm going to just keep waiting until I reach this perfect moment to do this work. And I think at a certain point, I sort of said to myself, well, I felt so drawn to this for so long, and there's so much of my heart and my spirit that wants to do this with such a deep desire that I almost owe it to myself to do it, even if it's in a moment of uncertainty in my life. And even if it's when I don't know necessarily what I'm doing or when I'm going to have the time to be able to really build this, because I have to start somewhere. So I think I signed up the day before the course, which started in May, and I'm so glad I did. When it comes to my background and what I've been doing recently, I am a researcher. So I'm a PhD researcher, and I'm also a performer. So I do storytelling work, and I research traditional storytelling and how it can be used for feminist advocacy. And so I felt like there was a really interesting link there. But I also have for a while been just wanting to work with women, and I've been sort of in and out of university for a while. And for a while I was working in lingerie and working as a lingerie stylist. So I would be going into dressing rooms with women and working with them and their bodies. And that was actually a role that I felt a deep honor to be, because people were trusting me with extreme vulnerability. And it was quite an honor to step into spaces and to honestly be able to worship women's bodies and be there to really pick them up. And I also have experience working with survivors of DVA, and I worked as a group work facilitator for a while for a women's aid organization in London, which was extremely impactful as well, and I think really sent me along this course as well. So yeah, I think that's everything to answer that question.
Incredible. Didn't know about the lingerie stylist. Always surprising me, Nina. Once you were in the process, what did you discover about yourself or remember about yourself?
I think that with this process, within this training, I don't think I was as ready to realize how much of it is deep personal work. This training not only taught me about my fears and about the things that hold me back from achieving my greatest strengths and potentials, but it also taught me so much about myself and how powerful I am. And I think that I wasn't really expecting to find that. I think I was really looking for community and connection, and I was looking for practical information as well. But I came out of it with this deep empowerment and this deep sense that I have a gift to bring to the world and that I am very powerful. And that kind of came out of nowhere. And I think has been extremely transformational to the way that I move through the world and the way that I sit with myself and the way that I connect with people. And I think for me, I also have learned how important it is to fill up your cup in order to be able to hold space for others. And I have often been someone who is a big people pleaser, and I often will sort of put so much into other people that then my cup ends up depleted. And this training taught me so much about my strength and how important it is to fill up my cup so that then I can just give this overflowing love and magic to the world. And I really feel like I have this overflowing abundance of that to give. And this training taught that to me, and helped me find that truth that was already there. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Often this process is the process that we take you through, and you go on meeting the magical within. And with you, that was like, and that power, you have accessed it so fully, and you're so expressed with it in the spaces that you hold and the way that you move through the world, as you said. We're almost at the end of our time together, and I don't want to close without asking you a bit about one of the things that some people do when they come through this process is they blend circle with other modalities and other work. And I'm wondering if you can share a bit about the process that you're in with doing that with your performance work.
Yeah, so I am currently letting a lot of my circle stuff sort of sit and bubble and stew in my cauldron of creativity. And I want to offer a lot of different types of circles. I want to offer circles that are quite simple, circles that are extremely founded on connection and authenticity, and inviting women to be vulnerable with one another and to find their voices and their strength. I also am really interested in the ways that story can help people access stories, if that makes any sense. And as I mentioned, I am currently studying and working as a storyteller, and working with traditional stories and finding ways to adapt them to be able to connect with women's experience specifically. And the goal, at least, is to find ways to use these stories to bring forth the voice and to find ways of bringing out stories that we might not always tell. And I'm really interested in incorporating traditional storytelling practices into how I hold circle. It's not the only type of circle I want to hold, but it is something that I'm quite interested in, sort of beginning the circle with a story and then asking, what does this story for you? Because so many stories that I've worked have brought up so much in my heart and in my voice, and have enabled me to speak to experiences within my personal life or within a collective experience of being a woman in this world and in, you know, a historical point of time. That has been really impactful. So I'm really interested in how there's so many ways that you can incorporate different types of modalities, different types of knowledge into circle. I'm also interested in incorporating dance. We've had an amazing voice workshop that I can't remember the name of the amazing woman who led it during our training now. I'm blanking, but she's incredible. And this voice workshop was transcendent, and she used poetry and spoken word and her background as a performer to create this incredible circle experience that I was just blown away. It was so inspiring. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about this training, is the fact that there's a structure that you learn, and there's skills, practical skills that you learn and that you hone, but there's also an incredible amount of encouragement to bring your skills and your interests into how you run circle. And so every single circle that comes out of this training is so unique and so marvelous, because it reflects so beautifully all of the things that whoever has created this circle is bringing to the world, space. And I love that this training has offered that ability to be so creative, while also giving us a way to hold space really solidly and building up a foundation to be able to feel empowered to be creative. It's really, really awesome. Would highly recommend.
Thank you so much, Nina. Nina's in Edinburgh for anyone who wants to follow her work. You can hear her creativity and her spark, and she holds majestic spaces. So thank you for being here, Nina. If you want to put your Instagram in the chat along with everyone else, please do.
Yes, I don't have an actual like circle Instagram yet because I'm still working on it, but I'll just put my personal one there, and I will be posting about circle stuff there soon. That's the plan.
Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you so much, everyone, for who shared. Thank you so much to everyone who shared. And I hope that's given you a sense of what this experience is like. And I know some of you are already coming to join us next week in the training. I can see Lynn in the chat is joining us. There's a few people who are committed already. And if you feel like you think it might be the right step for you, but there's still something there that you're not sure about, come and talk to me. You can book a call with me for 30 minutes. We can talk it all through. I'm going to pop the link in the chat. You probably have gathered this evening that I'm really here to help the people who it's really right for step into the space. And I'm not going to persuade anyone who I genuinely don't think it's right for. That's not what I'm here for. It's for you to make that decision. So if you want to book a call, please do. The only thing that I should say is the only exception to that is the bursary scheme, sadly, because we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications. And even if I worked 24 hours a day, I couldn't take all of them. So in the interest of fairness, we ask you to complete an application for that. And if you've applied for the bursary, you'll be hearing back early next week. Because I know there are some people here whose names I recognise for that scheme. So don't worry, it's been received. I just had underestimated how many emails I would get in October 2024, and I could literally spend my whole life answering messages and emails, so bear with me. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to close by just thanking our wonderful people who shared again and blowing out the candle that I lit for all of you when we began. Thanks so much, everyone. And if you want to unmute and say goodbye, please do that. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.